Okay, I'm taking back all the nice things I said about Land Cruisers. Maybe that was too harsh. But listen, they're a pain in the butt to bleed from what I'm finding out. So I'm bleeding the brakes right now on this 80. And I've bled them twice. I've got an ABS light on and they're still squishy. And from what I've been reading online, they are a pain to bleed. We're gonna get it figured out right now. But in all honesty, it can't be that difficult. It's all nuts and bolts. It's all hydraulic lines. Like, there's just got to be a certain way, a way to figure it out. Probably take some time. So we're pulling out all the stops here. Let me show you what I got going on. So my buddies, I tried using this at first. My buddy let me borrow this vacuum bleeder. I couldn't get it to pull a strong enough vacuum. I think, and maybe it just needed a little lube or something on the lid, but the lid was leaking a little bit. But a couple people that I've talked to said that won't pull enough vacuum to bleed them anyways on a bigger system like this. I don't know if that's true or not, because the old one that he had, I never had a problem with it, using it on Jeeps and bigger trucks. I was actually going to hook up my vacuum pump for running AC to that and pull that kind of vacuum. I still might build something to do that because I think that would be super cool. Maybe I'll try that later. A couple things. I was reading online that this Land Cruiser has a load sensing valve in the back. So it's got a little valve that's in the brake system that has an arm that goes down to the rear axle. So when the height of the rear changes, it changes maybe the proportioning or how much pressure is going to the rear axle. I'm not exactly sure, but it changes the brakes depending on if there's a load, how much of a load is on the back or not. Probably so you can't lock up the rear brakes. In my mind, when I bled them this last go around, you start the farthest away from the master cylinder and you work your way up. And that was right rear, left rear, then the load sensing valve, and then front right, and then front left. But from what I've been reading online, people are saying that load sensing valve you need to bleed last. You do the four wheels the same, and then you do that load sensing valve last. And it also confirms that in this Chilton's manual, they were saying the same thing, to do the load sensing valve last. So what I'm gonna do, I might actually just go try to bleed the load sensing valve and see if that fixes the problem. If not, we're gonna bleed all the brakes again. What I've got going on here though, I'm gonna try this. I just ordered this kit because a lot of people online were also saying power bleeding is the only way to get these brakes to bleed right. So I'm gonna try power bleeding. I've never power bled before, but I was gonna buy just the one fitting. This is the one fitting that fits this Land Cruiser. So I was gonna do just that fitting, but it was like $40 for just that fitting, or you can get the whole set for like $120. This was just off Amazon. I'll throw some links down below. But the whole kit comes with this and everything else. So I figure if I'm gonna get it, I might as well just get the whole kit. So I got it. So it's got some universal ones and it's got different sizes. Basically what you do with this setup is you pressurize the master cylinder. Just barely though, from what I've been reading. And then you bleed your brakes. So you put a little bit of pressure on the master cylinder and then you go around and bleed your brakes. So it's just like someone's been pumping the brakes, but someone doesn't have to keep pumping the brakes. It's just got constant pressure on the master cylinder and you just go around, bleed the brakes. Obviously you want to make sure you don't run out of fluid when you're doing it like this. Just like any other way of bleeding it. But I've also read too, I'm gonna go a little extra and put a little strap around the reservoir on the master cylinder because it just kind of presses and locks in. I've heard, not anybody firsthand, but everybody keeps telling me, or that I've been reading about, that you can blow the reservoir off the master cylinder by if you put too much pressure on it. So I'm just gonna put a little ratchet strap on there to be safe. Like I said, I haven't had anybody that said that firsthand, but everyone always says, oh, I knew a guy, or this, or you can do that. I've never done it, but I've heard that you can do it that way. So that might be the case. I don't really know, but we're just gonna take an extra precaution, put that on there. So what I've got going on is I've got This goes on the master cylinder. We're gonna go put that on. This locks it on. And then I've got this hose, and I've got a pressure regulator. So I didn't buy the whole kit. I just bought the adapters for the master cylinders, and then I'm kind of making my own kit. So I've got a regulator, and then I've got different adapters because I've got all kinds of different hose fittings. I just need to standardize my air hose fittings is what I need to do, but I've got different fittings because my buddy's shop has different fittings and work has different fittings, so that's why I have all these adapters. I just need to standardize it. But here we got our regulator. We're just gonna put like 510 PSI in there, and then we're gonna go try to bleed it. So let's hook that up and check it out. Okay, we got our little kit caboodle here, a little setup going on. I've got it all the way backed out, the regulator. I'm gonna hook the hose up. We don't have it hooked up to the reservoir yet. Hook that up. And we're just gonna give it a little pressure just to check this. There, it's giving us there's about 5 right there. I don't know how much to really do. I guess we'll start with 5 and see how it looks coming out of the bleeder. Let's hook this up and see. Okay, I don't hear anything leaking, but let's try one of the bleeders. All right, got my wrench. 10 mil flared, and then I got my little hose attachment. This piece is actually from the old vacuum bleeder setup. Let's get under here and see. There's the bleeder right there. Let's take this little cover off. I was also reading, someone online too was saying that you have to unhook this rod and let it drop all the way and bleed it, and then compress it all the way and bleed it. I don't know if that's necessary either, but we're gonna keep trying stuff until we get it. And then we're gonna stop. This down. Broke it loose. I don't see anything coming out. I'm gonna go turn the pressure up a little bit. Turn it up to 10. Okay, we're up to 10. Maybe I should have closed that. It looked like some fluid came out. I wish you guys could tell me if some fluid came out. There's definitely some in the hose. Let's close it and go see. I don't know. I unhooked the hose, the air hose, pushed on the brakes. It went not to the floor, but it went down quite a ways. Pressed it again and it seems stiff. Let's try this one more time. I hooked the air hose back up and see if this... There's something coming out. It looks like air. Do we try more air pressure? I don't know if I dare. Because normally on these power bleeders, you hand pump that sucker up. You don't use compressed air. We got something coming out of there. Maybe we'll go take it for a drive and see. Look, I mean, we definitely got some fluid out. Look at that. Let's go try it. Hook here. This guy off. This guy. Cap on. We'll take it for a drive. I don't think that's gonna be it. I don't think that would have done it, but let's try it anyways. Feels stiff already. Thought the ABS light went off and then it came back on. Yeah. And that ABS light shouldn't be on. The other thing is too is I don't know what trips that ABS light. Like, what is causing the ABS light to go on? Is it sensing that there's air the ABS module somehow, so that manifold, so it can't do its thing. I don't know enough about ABS. I think we're just gonna try to bleed the whole system. We're gonna start at the master cylinder. We're gonna make sure the master cylinder's bled, and then we're gonna bleed right after the ABS module. And we'll go and do all 4 wheels and the load sensing valve again. I think that's gonna be the plan, and we'll see where that takes us. I was hoping maybe just that load sensing valve would do it, but kind of knew that wasn't going to be the case. All right. Let's start again. All right, we've got her hooked back up, topped off the fluid again. I'm actually going to crank this up. I was watching a few videos just to refresh. There we go. And there were some guys that were saying they push it all the way up to like 20 or 30, but it seems like the general consensus is 15 to bleed the system. So we've got our master cylinder full, we've got it up to 15 right now, and I'm just gonna go through and bleed all brakes again, all 4 of them, plus the load valve. We'll start at we're gonna do the load valve last, but we'll start at the right rear, left rear. I mean, this thing, they say to follow the lines.
Can't see the line, can you, Russ?
No.
But man, this thing's got brake lines everywhere. The way it goes, it's got one that goes up here, and through the module. I mean, they're all over the place. It's kind of no wonder that these vehicles might be kind of tricky to bleed. So we're just gonna try it this way. We'll just push a ton of fluid through it, make sure that reservoir stays full, and then let's see what happens. All right, we got it all bled. This go around, so I bumped it up to 15 on the regulator, and I also took out this little screen that goes right underneath the cap. Probably shouldn't really matter, but I saw in one video that they had pulled that out, so I just thought I'd pull it out just because. So at 15 PSI, it actually, there was a lot more fluid coming out. So I did all 4 corners, and there was, it was a pretty steady stream coming out of all 4 corners, which was nice. And then when I did the load sensing valve in the back, I did that last again. More fluid came out than I did the first time with 10 PSI. Not as much as the 4 wheels, but definitely more than the first time. And it looked like there was a couple little bubbles that came out of the load sensing valve. I didn't really see much out of the 4 corners, but it looked like if any came out, it was out of the load sensing valve. So we're gonna take this back apart and take it for a drive. Man, they're feeling real stiff already. Fingers crossed. ABS light, total fake. The ABS light goes off and then it comes back on. Gets me every time. They still feel squishy. Let's take it for a drive. I'm gonna have to make some calls. Hey Chance, I got a technical question I'm wondering if you guys might be able to help me out with. I'm working on this 93 FZJ80. I just changed a bunch of the soft brake lines on it. I cannot get the thing to bleed. Man, I'm wondering if you guys got any advice on bleeding that. It's still got squishy brakes, but then it's also, like, I've got an ABS light on now that I didn't have on before. Okay. Yeah, all right, well, I'll give that a try. Okay. Right. Okay. I've got it bled the best I can, so maybe I'll give that a try. Maybe I'll go give it a couple runs down a dirt road and see if I can get the ABS to engage and then bleed it again. Awesome, man. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Okay, bye. All right, Chance out at Cruiser Outfitters. We're gonna go try. We got it bled the best we can. I guess we're gonna go try to find a gravel road and see if we can get this ABS to. But it would, if the light's on, it's not gonna engage. Like it's not gonna get. The ABS isn't gonna set off, right? I don't know. I don't know how this ABS system works. We'll give it a try. I was actually reading online somewhere. I found a diagram online where you can jump the ABS module. You ground some wires and power some wires kind of for a second, on and off for a minute to engage that pump. Maybe I'll give it a try. A dude at work told me that has one of these same vehicles. He was telling me to unplug the ABS module and to bleed it running, you know, by pumping the pedal. I don't know. We're gonna keep trying.
Now what?
Why don't you gentlemen have a Pepsi?
Okay, we are done bleeding brakes, and I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but we've bled them 10 or 12 times, all different ways possible, and hopefully it's gonna be as good. It's good as it's gonna get, I think, for now. There is a bunch of different ways, and when we called Cruiser Outfitters, they told us, oh, hit it on a dirt road, block up the ABS. I was reading online. There wasn't an area close enough to do that. But I was reading online, if you put it on jack stands, all 4 tires, run it, hit the brakes a couple of times while the wheels are spinning. Obviously, they're not all going to stop at the same speed, so you're going to trigger the ABS that way. So we did that a couple of times, bled the brakes, pushed a ton of fluid through the system. The last couple of times we were using the power bleeder that hooked up to the reservoir. I tried a couple different ways. I did the rears, then the fronts, then the load valve in the back, and then we did the brakes a couple of times, the analog brakes on the jack stands, tried to trigger it a couple of times, then did the brakes again. Then I tried it. Someone said that they had done the rears, the load valve, then the fronts, then the load valve again. We tried that. None of it really seemed to make a difference. So I think part of the issue, though, I don't even know if the ABS was engaging. I think after thinking about it and working on it, I think we're fighting 2 issues here. The ABS the ABS light that's on, and maybe squishy brakes. Maybe not even squishy brakes, because I don't know how it drove before. I never drove it before, apart from just pulling it in the driveway and working on it. So maybe it's actually how it's supposed to be. We'll see. Talk to the guy. He's gonna I'm gonna take it out to him. He's gonna drive it and see. I actually called the Toyota dealership and asked them, because this is pre-OBD2, so I can't plug into it to see why the ABS light is on. You can jump it. There's a way that you can jump connectors and it'll flash. I'm not super confident in doing that because I don't want to short anything out. But the Toyota dealership said that they can plug into it, say why the ABS is. And they also said that they can bleed it as well. And I mean, maybe they're just saying that, but whatever. But I'm gonna get it back together and we're gonna see how it drives. Back to the ABS light being on. I think that is possibly a separate issue, because I don't know a ton about ABS systems, but the ones that I have worked on, I don't know any ABS system that's gonna have a light come on because of like air in the system or air in the valve, because usually it's an electronic issue, a wheel speed sensor, something, computer that's not working, not reading right. That's usually what the issue is. So I kind of wonder, because when I did all the suspension on the rear, the 2 ABS lines run along the upper control arms down to the axle and to the wheel speed sensors, and I was careful taking them off, but I had to unbolt the brackets. There's 2 bolts on each upper control arm, unbolted those when I pulled the upper control arm off. And sometimes when stuff gets old, you start moving it around where it hasn't normally been moving, and stuff can break. So maybe a connection in one of those sensors could have been bad. The other possibility that would have just had to have been perfect timing is if you got a wheel bearing that's going bad, it won't read that ABS sensor because it's not in range, or it's flopping around, or the wheel bearing's got so bad that it's taken out the ABS sensor. That's a possibility, because we're about to do the wheel bearing on the front left. He's already done the one on the front right. We're going to do the front left, so that's a possibility too, but I don't think the wheel bearing's that bad where it wouldn't be picking up on that. So anyways, that's going to wrap it up for now on the brakes. So let's move on to the wheel bearing.